Hey, I'm Michael, and Jessica's here with me today, and I'm going to show you, or we're going to show you, how to make a sketchbook out of old paper, cardstock, glue, duct tape, and a file folder. I showed this last night, and I told how to do it, but I'm actually going to show you what I've done, and a lot of the video will be sped up, and okay, let's get to it. The stuff you'll need: you need a tarp of some sort or a drop cloth. You want a book press. And if you watch my video from yesterday, the video blog that says something about the book press, I'll tell how I made this. You may need a ruler. I have a rotary tool. This is it's kind of like a perforator. It's called a tracing wheel, a toothed tracing wheel. I have a razor knife. You can just use an X-Acto knife if you have one of those. Again, my ruler. I've got two of these little clips that I'm going to try to use to put the paper perfectly together with. And then a bone folder, although this one's plastic. And then the actual binding material itself, I used this. I used about 4 coats of it. Just a brush, an old piece of a old phone card, duct tape, something to hold your brush in. I'm going to go on and try to put all of this in the right places. You want to make sure anything that touches the glue stays on top of your mat or your whatever, your spilt cloth or whatever it is. The next stuff that you'll need for this one, this is what we're using. You'll need a napkin, at least 2 of them probably, and a cup of water to clean your brush. I'm going to set that back over here. In this one, we're going to put a ribbon bookmark in it. So we've got the ribbon, a piece of cardstock for the cover, just the manila folder, file folder, and then this is the paper that I was talking about. It's the old style rotary computer paper. First thing I'm going to do is cut down the folder itself, and to do that I'm going to take my ruler and my knife, and you've got to cut on the white over here. Make sure that I've got the right stuff going on. I'm just going to go right here and cut off the tab. I'm trying to get it cut without cutting all the way through it and messing up the board a lot, so I'm going to go on and go back to the back though and try to cut across one more time real lightly. and it'll just pop right off. I'm going to go and cut this light back off. I think I can do it without it. The next part that you want to do, you can do this after you put it together. I'm going to try it by doing this first. I'm going to go on and put center up my front cover into the binder itself, or the folder itself. I want to make sure that it's in the right spot and at the ends exactly. I'm just going to do the little rotary tool down the side of it. Just to give myself an idea of where I'm going to have to cut it, so that way I can line it up easier when I get to gluing. And go and see about maybe cutting it a little bit. Actually, I think I am going to wait till I get it done to cut it. I don't want to take the chance of messing it up. So, you want to make sure that the back of it is what you cut the tab off of, and it's going to fit this way and be the back of your book. And this would be the front of your book. So, I actually put it in the wrong place, which is a good thing I didn't cut it. But the front part is going to be, it'll fold over, and you can put it up under your other stuff or your other paper to make sure that you have a surface to draw on and don't indent your paper. So anyway, the folder for now is done. And as I said, this is just that old rotary printer paper, and I have a whole box of this, so this is what I'm using for it. A lot of people probably have never seen this. If you're younger than me, a lot of you probably haven't. Have you ever seen this?
Oh yeah.
And Jessica's helping me because this is her book today. The other one I showed is my book. If you have this paper and want to use it for this, you might want to make a few tears in between. This is a little bit too thick to be really trying to do what I'm doing now, so I should have actually torn off a few pages first. And it's just together like this, and I'm going to let her do the rest of that one while I go on and tear most of this apart. And I'll come back to the video once the paper is ready. Okay, so we got all the paper torn apart. You don't have to use that type of paper. It can be regular typing paper or computer paper of any sort. It can be notebook paper if you want it to be. So you just lightly go through and make sure you got all the edges at the right spot. And then you want to go on and place your cover on. And what I'm going to do now is, hopefully my clip here is big enough. I'm going to try to get it in place and it's okay if your edges are a little bit off. It is just a home job, so you don't want to close the clips the opposite way, because if you do, when you go to put them in the binder here, it will not fit right. So your book's going to open like this, and you can actually make a sketchbook out of just these clips and the way I just done that if you want to. This part, once you get this in here, you want to go on and put this on. And you just want to open your clips up enough to slide it in, basically. And I'm going to take one of these clips off so I can try to get this in there right. Alright, I'm going to go and put the clip back on. Actually, I did mess it up, so I gotta redo that. I'll try this again. Now I'm just going to put the clip in the center. With it laying down, you can clip one side of it and get the others in there. Just want to make sure that I have it in the center. Alright. Just pull this back off of your edge and clip it. And then you're going to take this one and you'll clip it down here on this side. Alright, so that's pretty much how your book is going to look. From here, go on and make sure that it's actually evened up and everything. So okay, when you put this in the book binding machine thing, or the book binding press, you might want to, you'll think about putting this part of the folder down. If you do that though, then you're going to end up gluing it together and your sketchbook will be no good. So you're going to want to put it in like that and just let the cover bend and then you'll bend it back into shape once you get that going. So the next thing you want to do is, if you use these clips, then you can do this without taking the top of the binding thing off. You just have to lift it up and slide this through. And what I'm doing with the clips is I'm going to press them down to make sure that when I put this here, it's going to be even with these clips. So I want to make sure that the clip is all the way up on it, and that clip is resting against the side of the board there. And now I've got tape on the board, so I can paint the glue on there without getting it all over the board itself. And I think that's about the right area. Okay, so once it's in there, go on and make sure that your boards are even as well. Put your hand on top and just screw down your wing nuts on the front. I'm using 4-inch bolts. You might, if you don't want to make a thick book, I figured I might end up making a thick book as well. If you don't want to make a thick one, 3 inch is fine, and it'll be easier for you to work with probably. Tighten down the front bolts first and then the back bolts, and everything should be snug. The back are not going to be as snug because there's extra room back there, and you don't want to mess with those as much. Don't just crank them down really far. As long as they're snug and the front ones won't move and these are hard to move, then you're good. Okay, at this point, what you want to do is you can just take your clips off and stand it up and inspect your edge. Go on and let the press bend your folder front. Does that look okay on the edge? Mm-hmm. Okay. And you want it so that it'll stand up on its own. So I'm trying to bend that part of the book back. Alright. You're going to have to hold it there. I'm going to have to cut that light back on. Make sure I get the glue in the right places, but this is actually probably the easy part of it. You just take your glue, and this is with just the school glue. If you use other types of glue, you need to probably apply it differently. And you just squeeze out a bead, thick bead all the way down. Alright. And just take a brush. You'll want to go towards the first end and then go all the way down the other way. And you can see it will go over on the edges. That's fine, since the edges are the front and the back of the book, and they don't matter anyway because they'll be up under tape. So I'm actually going to go here, and since there's glue down here, I'm going to just spread the glue out here. that does two things, which is it makes the glue easier to clean up, and it's going to make it so that when you go to pull it apart, you can actually pull it apart easier. So the first thing, like I said, is now I'm just cleaning up the glue, and I need a paper towel. And you'll want to kind of go down with the point of that edge just to make sure that you can get in there. Alright, I just put that on there, but I'm going to go on and put another coat on, and it's easy to try to go all the way down like I did the first time, but it's a lot easier on your hand if you do it in little inch segments. And with skull glue, you want to put a lot on there, and it'll build up the binding. If you don't, then you will end up with basically just hardly any binding at all. The rubber cement and stuff like that, it was a lot thicker, so you don't need as much. I have somewhat of a little bit of arthritis in my hands, and it hurts to go all the way down, so that's why you can do it in the little segments like that. And again, I'm just going to brush it, try to spread it out. This time though, I am going to go over the edges on purpose, and if you can look at that and see that it's actually already thickening up on there. This glue says it takes about 30 minutes to dry, so I'm going to go specifically on the edges and try to get a good binding contact there. Okay. Again, I'm going to go with the card and clean it up what I can. You can take that glue and actually smear it onto the other side itself if you want. To the sides, I should say. And then again, I'm going down the side to make sure that there is a way I can get this out of the press. If you get glue on your surface, like I'm actually sitting on top of a drawing desk, I can't put water on this desk, it'll ruin it, so I have to just maybe get a drop of water at the most to put on it. This glue should clean up with just that little drop of water. But go on and make sure that you get it cleaned up immediately. And you have to let your press actually stand up like this. So if you turn it on its side, then you'll end up having the glue just dripping off the end of it coming down. And I think that I'm going to let this set for about 15 minutes, and then I'll come back and apply another coat. Okay, I'm back again, and I'm going to go on and put a third coat on. This time though, I'm going to try to smooth this back down a little bit. And I did want to go on and mention that we forgot to put the ribbon in. There's another way you can put the ribbon in. What you would originally want to do is take the ribbon, go down halfway in between the back piece of paper and the folder, and you want to cut it so that it can go at least halfway and wrap over and go all the way back down. So instead of doing it that way, we're just going to put it on the very back and hope that it goes through. We may end up just having to tape it into the spine, but I'm going to apply one more coat of the glue, and after that we're going to go on and pull it out and put the spine on it. It will have to dry again. I'll cut off the video after that and all, but here we go. You want to make sure you have enough light that you can see where everything's going. And if you can see this back, it's got those little ripples in it. I'm going to try to fill those ripples with glue this time. Again, just go about inch by inch. And I think I am just going to wait to put that ribbon on, and I'm just going to put it up under the binding, or the tape binding. Your back piece of paper may not be as good as the rest. You may want to actually use another piece of cardstock. But one piece of paper for a whole book, that's I say an acceptable price. The rest of it will be easily usable. And make sure that you close up your glue after each application of it. This time I want to take the card and just kind of smooth it out. The reason that you would want to put the ribbon back here in between the two sheets is because if you put it elsewhere, then you're going to mess up those pages, and it'll come out when you get to that page if you tear that out. If you put it back here though in between these and glue that, you can clamp it in there and get that glue on it. So I'm going to go on and try to remove enough of this glue that I can pull pull this out the next time that or after this application has dried, I should say. And if you cut up one of these cards to do this with, just know that you will end up having to go on and replace that card after the book is over, or at least 2 books. This is just my second one, and the card is already getting messed up pretty bad. But you want it to look like it's got a layer on top of it. If it's got that layer on it, then it's thick and it should be completely white looking, and that's what you want it to look like. And I'll come back once this is dried again. And we're back. Right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get this glue off of the edges that's binding it to the wood itself. I'm going to do that with the card and the knife. Really lightly, I'm just going to put that knife there and go along that edge. Try to break free any connection that it has without actually cutting the paper or the boards or anything like that. You just need to drag it, and as soon as you do that, very carefully clean your blade and put it away. And take very lightly unscrew your front 2. You don't want to unscrew the back 2 yet. As you can see, that it did not dry all the way, but I'm still going to lay it down. I'm going to lay this down and try to pry this out just a little bit. And you may have to get your fingers in some glue. That's not really a big deal, but you want to be very careful not to rip your paper, which you may end up getting a little bit of it ripped, but it'll be up under the tape, so it doesn't matter that much. And I'm going to go on and smooth this back off again. Apparently I had a lot more glue on it than I thought I did, but you just want to work this through there very carefully. You'll hear it tearing just a little bit maybe, but with that glue still being on there and it's still wet, I should have let it dry probably about 2 hours instead of just 30 minutes, I guess. But it's kind of an okay thing still. I'm going to pull it out, realign it, and go on and put that binding tape on. Make sure that you clean your card that you're working with. You don't want that to be dirty or have the wet glue on it, because it will mess it up. I think I'm going to have to get the knife out for this part. Alright, the top is loose, and I'm going to go on and lift up some of these. back piece here. Now the bottom is not going to be as hard probably because it's got that board on it, or the folder instead. So I'm hoping it's not as hard to get loose. But you want to do the same thing. Just run your card across it and clean your card off. Make sure that you clean everything. Alright. I'm just going to find something to stick up under there. Hold it open long enough to pull this out a little bit. And I can already see that this did kind of tear the paper a little bit. I think what I'll do is I'll definitely make sure I have a big enough piece sticking out here that I can get that tape over top of that. And you want to go up under your board pretty good, and you want to do that before you try to take your board off in case you drop your board back down. I'm going to go on and take this board up a little bit more. I might even just take it off for a minute. That should be good. Alright, so what you want to do is, before you get started, you want to take a piece of duct tape that you're using for your binding, cut a small piece, and fold it over on top of itself so that it's the complete width across. And you're basically going to look at that and say, hey, this is halfway of it. So you got to, I'm going to actually clamp this back down now. You've got to make sure that you've got the right spot for it. So you won't be able to see this too good probably. That's about the middle. And you just take that and align that to your edge and see about where it's going to fall. And you don't have to tighten the back all the way back down when you're doing this. Just tighten that front back down. But I'm just going to spin them around till they stop spinning at least. The front, go on and pull it down. And I'm just going to stick this right here so I can see about where it goes. Now I just pull it back down with it right there, and I'm going to make a little mark on the front of it. Now I can take my ruler. You can kind of estimate the right width with the ruler if you just look at the point where you marked, and then you can kind of say, hey, it tapers off where it's going right, and I'm going to say that it's going to be about right there. So what you do now, clean your tape off so you can use it again, and go on and get your your actual roll of duct tape and get it ready. And you want to tape over off the sides at least about a quarter of, I'd say a half an inch actually. Well, a quarter of an inch is probably fine, but if you do it to where it's not as far over, then you'll end up messing up the paper when you try to cut the excess tape off. And I don't care how good you are, you will not be able to cut duct tape perfectly straight unless you're using some sort of straight edge cutting device. So you have to measure it out first. I'm going to lay it down like this and say needs to be cut about right there. I'm going to get Jessica to cut it for me. Now, I've not put the ribbon in. I don't even see my ribbon actually, but what you can do is put the ribbon on the spine instead of on the back of the book. Either way is fine. If you put it on the spine, you can glue it down on it as well, and it'll hold it in easier, or better I should say, but I like it being on the back of the book. When you get that on there, take your bone folder, paper folder, whatever you want to call it, and smooth that tape out the best you can. Alright, now stand this back up. Where do you want the ribbon, on the back or the spine?
Either way is fine.
Alright, to do this, I'm going to flip it upside down, and I'm going to just put this about halfway down, and that glue is still tacky enough that it goes right in there. You have to be very careful when you cut the tape, because you will cut the ribbon if you trim the tape up after, and the folder. So use your folder, your bone folder, and just curl that over. You can do this by hand if you want, but it's harder to get it to actually fold right. And you just do it that way. And it seems pretty good. You kind of want this to have a little bit of a loop edge on it. It's not going to be perfectly tight, but if it is perfectly tight, it's okay. It might have a few problems opening. This one, it's got a little bit of a air pocket in there where that glue is setting, and that's a good thing. Now, since it's in there, I'm going to see how it turned out. I'm not sure if I done it right or not, but it is what it is. The biggest problem is getting these wing nuts off fast enough. One thing you can do is hold the wing nut and actually turn the bolt if you want to. That'll get it on off the top of it. And I just lift that off the top. And there we go. It's got a little bit of glue on the back there, so you take your napkin, your paper towel, and just kind of clean that up. And you want to go on and clean up the edge of your boards the best you can right quick. You can come back later and scrape these or sand them back down. And I'm going to let her hold that just a minute while I fit this back on here. And I will say, make sure you clean this, or at least dry it, because if you don't, it will be stuck together the next time. So I'm going to go on and just put these nuts back on here, and just try to get this out of the way. You don't want to actually move your board out of the way, you just want to have it secure, because you're going to use it top as a cutting board now. And first thing you want to do is come back, find your folds that you made in this with the press, and bend it backwards, and then there you go. So that's made, but you still have the edges, and it went in there pretty good. What you want to do now, first thing, very carefully, is you cannot cut your ribbon, so you need to take a small pair of scissors and cut around the edge of your tape. I'm going to turn it this way and do this side first. Over on this side, I just want to take this knife and drag it right along the side of the edge of the paper. You might get a few pieces of the paper just kind of sliced a little bit, but it's fine. That also cuts your tape where you need it. If I can get it off my finger, I'll be doing good. And as you can see now, that bends back. You sort of have to estimate this. I'm going to cut my light back on so I can see it better. But basically you want to estimate that right out on across just a little bit. I'm going to go on and start cutting this side. Alright, as you notice, I did not cut through here with the tape or with the knife because I've got that ribbon there, and I'm just going to have to take some scissors and get the rest of that. I'm going to try to come on down in here just a tad bit further without getting that ribbon though. And you just go on, and once you get it halfway down here, just cut it right in that crease on both sides to where you made your cuts. And now you should be able to fold this over like so, and you can fold it back, and just we'll flip it over in a minute and go on and finish cutting that off. I'm trying to get this one done the same way without cutting that ribbon, so once you get that part cut, you pull that ribbon back this way, and then you can sort of cut across there. You just have to be very careful with it. It would probably be smart to trim up that side first if you're putting in the ribbon, and then trim up the folder first, and then put your tape right at that end and just let it overhang on this end. That would probably be the best thing to do. Now I just have to get this part off, and I can show you how it turns out. Basically, when it's like this, where you flip them on their back again, you just come down very lightly with your knife on the other side and score it, and it will pop right through. And you can just pull it off once it's kind of perforated like that. This side should be a little bit easier since I'm right-handed. Apparently I didn't cut this side very good, so if you know exactly the dimensions and you know you're going to get the binding glued on there perfectly, you could actually take this to a paper trimmer first. It would make short work of it. So now that that side's done, your book is basically done except for that front cover. And if there's any sticking over on the side, there is a little on this edge, it's fine. You can trim that off later if you want to. What you want to do though is take this, close it, and turn it back over so that your long part is on the bottom. I seem to be doing better cutting this way, so go on and apply decent pressure to it to cut through that part all the way to the end down there on both sides. And now you do the same thing with this side, just flip it over. So you can see I cut on through pretty good, so there you go. Now you have a bookmark, a ribbon bookmark. You have your sketchbook that you can go through. I would leave it shut for at least 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours. Let it dry. Let that glue dry really good. But just whenever you want to now, you can take your bookmark and just pull it through like that. And you can put this up under to draw on top of. And you have your surface so you don't indent that paper. And when you're done, you can just do it like that. And that's all.